The Maple Leafs failed to close it out in 4 games. Sweep City was denied. We'll talk about it on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. What's happening, Dave? How was your weekend?
It was all right.
Just I guess it would have been a little better if the Leafs, completed the sweep. Then we wouldn't have to worry about what's going on tomorrow. But they did not. The Leafs lose Saturday night to the Ottawa Senators. Another overtime game, Dave. That's 3 in a row here, and it was a bit of a nail biter. But the Maple Leafs lose. Jake Sanderson is the game winner. I don't know what it is about defensemen in this series just deciding that they're going to close out games, not the star forwards. It seems like only defensemen can make the big plays in overtime, huh?
Yeah, big plays from defenseman to Max Domi, just how everybody chalked it up going into this series. And yeah, it's just one of those things where, maybe if I'm a team, don't let defensemen shoot from the point now, I guess. Like it's just put it on net. Anything can happen. Is kind of that theory is kind of playing out the way that most coaches tell their players to do.
Yeah, would you say that was the best the Leafs looked though? Like I thought that was probably outside of the first period, which not a good period, obviously, but they completely locked Ottawa down after that. Like the second period, Ottawa had one shot on, none at 5-on-5. Only one shot on goal in the entire period. I think they only had like 2 or 3 in the third period too. Like the rest of the final 40 minutes of regulation, Ottawa had nothing going. Toronto was all over them. Linus Ullmark had to stand on his head. And unfortunately, the lone couple shots there that did make its way through to Stolarz ended up in the back of the net. But I thought that the Leafs played pretty well in the game. They probably deserved to win a little bit more, I would say. Overtime was just a killer because you get a double minor, and I know you and I were texting right after it. And when you fail to score on a 4-minute power play, especially since the power play has been so good throughout this series, like so good and almost a cheat code in this series. It felt like, and you saw the look. Was it Batherson took the penalty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you saw the look on Batherson's face when he got a stick up on Tanev. He just looked to the heavens and was like, "Oh my God, I probably just ended our season." Like he knew it the second it happened. He knew he got his stick up there. Chris Tanev ends up bleeding. 4-minute penalty, and the Leafs failed to score. You can't fail to score on a double minor. You get 4 minutes of power play time, and you do not get the puck in the back of the net. And right when it ended, me and you looked at each other, or texted each other, said, "Well, that was their chance. They're not going to win this game now." Like that's what we thought would happen. Sure enough, a couple minutes later, Jake Sanderson ends it in overtime.
Yeah, like that was a part for me. It was just like you get the best opportunity all game to just put it to bed. And yeah, the Matthews hitting the post, I'm like,
Tough.
just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Reminded
me of Tavares. Was it game 6 when they were up 3-2 on Tampa a couple of years ago? And Tavares in overtime hits, I think it's game 7 actually, when they lost the first series against Tampa in OT, and Tavares kind of gets a tip, and it just goes off the post and stays out. It was like inside post and out. It was a very similar kind of outlook on this one. Inside post and just doesn't go into the net to finish the game. And it's the Leafs have gotten a lot of bounces. They've gotten a lot of bounces in this series. I will say they've almost all gone Toronto's way. Not in Game 4. The bounces went in Ottawa's way for them to stay alive.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're the Senators, you're kind of you kind of maybe breathe a little sigh of relief. This reminds you a lot about when the Leafs played the Panthers, right? The Leafs were down 3-0 in the series. You get that one win, and you're just like, maybe there's a chance. We all know how that ended, though, for the Leafs, right?
Yeah, we do.
Actually, that one went to overtime.
Yeah, I was in the building, yeah.
Right? So I know that there's going to be a lot of that talk today. I'm not looking forward to it.
I'm not concerned.
But that's the thing. I'm not concerned. I just hate when the narrative kind of shifts drastically when, as you said it, like the Leafs outside of the first period, I think they allowed 4 shots in the second and third period.
Yeah.
Like
4 shots total. Yeah.
Ottawa was running around the zone. Ain't a lot happening for them after that. Yes, they got the one goal from where Zoo passed it to Perron.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there ain't much happening for Ottawa. And so, yes, there are some things that the Leafs definitely have to clean up. But, like, that's why I saw that 4-minute power play is just like, almost like the Leafs did deserve to put that game to bed just because they were playing like the better team. So that's why I'm not overly concerned, except you just know that like you gotta end it in Game 5. You just don't want to have a Game 6 going back to Ottawa right after Brady Tkachuk went out, after the game, and he's like, "We're coming back. We're coming back here." Didn't
his brother say the same thing? When
he did it in the locker room where they were in Boston, and he's like, "Boys, we're gonna be coming back here for Game 7."
Yeah, I recall that.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, Brady's got to find his own material maybe sometimes. But yeah, like to me, there was obviously a lot of other factors, right? The Tavares play, the him not being on the power play. Like a lot of people were asking me about that, and I mean, I'm sure we can get into it a little bit more, but like,
yeah, I think it definitely affected them.
Yeah,
like that power play had been so potent the entire postseason, since January 15th. It's been the number 1 power play in the league. Like it was 30% from that point on. And 5 for like 18 or 5 for less than that, 5 for like 12 or something like that. 5 for 9. Sorry, 5 for 9. So over 50% to this point in the postseason for the Maple Leafs. So it had been going well, and then they go 0 for 4 and fail to score on a double minor in overtime. And I think Tavares not being there because of the hit definitely played a factor in that. I think it threw them off a little bit. You had to put Riley back on the power play, and you just can tell when Riley's out there, it's just a lack of a point, threat for the point. Right? There's a couple times like I was watching it with a group of people because I was at the card show all weekend, and there was a trade night that night, so they had it on at the trade night. We're all watching in overtime in anticipation, and everyone keeps yelling when he has the puck at the point. It's like shoot! Like the amount of goals that have gone in from the point through traffic this playoff has been remarkable, and for whatever reason, just not willing to do so. I don't know, but at least failed to score on that double minor, and that was really, really kind of their best chance to end it in overtime and end the series. But Jake Sanderson gets it done just a couple of minutes later. I'm sure the Locked On Sens boys were happy about that because it hasn't necessarily been the best series for Jake Sanderson. Remember when the Locked On Sens guy, said that he was the number one defenseman in the series, put him at number one, and said, "You guys watch out. He's gonna turn. You're gonna watch the superstar that he is." And don't get me wrong, I think he's going to be a star in this league. Could be a top-notch defenseman, but the playoffs have eaten him up a little bit. He finally kind of got his moment there in Game 4 with the game-winning goal for the Senators. All right, we'll continue to break down the game. We'll get to the good, the bad, the ugly on the other side. And a lot of other things went on in the NHL, including some breaking news this morning. We'll get to that next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all your money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. I like the fact that I could put everything all in one app. It's convenient, helps me track everything, and it will also help me set my long-term goals. And, you know, if I want to see where my money is actually going to, how much I'm spending on something specific, Monarch Money has some great filters for that stuff. So I can actually budget smarter and save more. And if, you know, you're managing money with your partner, it's smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, free and available wherever you get a podcast. And we're also up on YouTube. It's our road to 10K. 10,000 subscribers, what we're hoping to get on YouTube. Once we get there, we're giving away a Leafs jersey. So if you haven't yet, you have to be subscribed to be able to be in on that jersey. So do so and be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Leafs. Ran into a few fans of the show throughout the weekend at the card show. So thank you to everyone who came up to me and told myself that Dave and I are doing good work. And they a lot of people yesterday coming up to me saying they were anticipating and excited for today's show, specifically coming off the loss. They wanted to hear what we had to say. But I told a lot of them yesterday. I was having the conversation and talking about how, you know, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that they lost, because you didn't want, like, glass half full, you don't want them to be hanging around too long either, right? Like, you have a long layoff between the first and second round. So if they finish the sweep, you know, and all of a sudden that Florida Tampa series goes 6-7 games, they might not play for a week. And that never helps anybody when, you know, the playoff rolls around and you got that rest versus rust. Usually the rust factor kind of bleeds through the first couple games of the series. And then by then, you know, you could be down 2-0 in that series before you get your legs. So glass half full, it keeps the Leafs playing, keeps them engaged in games and keeps them focused. And hopefully Tuesday they can finish it off and show that killer instinct, though.
Yeah, I feel like 5 games. Game 5 is kind of one of those put the demons to bed. And look, they would do something they haven't done in a very, very long time. Win a playoff series at home. Because remember, 2023, the Lightning series, that was on the road in Tampa.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, maybe just, you know, give the Leafs fans a little something nice, right? Give them a chance to celebrate that their first. I can't actually, that would have been what, 2004, last time they won a series at home, I think. So it'd be nice if you know, for that to happen. I the last thing I want is for, again, this game 5 to kind of end up similar to a game 4. I mean, if the Leafs play the same way in Game 5 they did in Game 4, I kind of
should win. You would think.
Yeah, just like you look at what they need to kind of a better start. If they get off to a better start, like they have in this series, right? For majority of the series, the Leafs have gone off to the better starts. They usually, they pick up the lead first in most of the games. Power plays usually been better. So like there are ways for this team to get better, but it's about learning from what went wrong in Game 4.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully, game 5, the Maple Leafs can get it going. I think special teams are definitely going to be high on the priority list to make sure that they can get that cooking, going 0 for 4 on the power play, giving up a shorty, not what you're looking for. In a do or, well, I guess it wasn't do or die for them. It was do or die for the Senators, but in a closeout game, and that's the other part that kind of leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth. Like it's been highly publicized, the lack of performance points and the lack of production from the core four and closeout games specifically. And again, you look at the score sheet, Matthews didn't get one, Marner didn't get one, Tavares scored, but you wanted to see a little bit more production from that core four and maybe see that killer instinct shine through, because those are the kind of the playoff demons that kind of live in the head. So hopefully in game 5, those guys can factor in and get it done. Because again, that's another one of those boxes that needs to be checked, right? Like closeout games, the Leafs have not necessarily got enough from their big boys. Maybe that's kind of the last step towards, making it seem like, okay, this year truly is different. We've seen a lot of good things happen, right? The power play has been good, special teams, they're playing with some bite. Marner's, cooking, but can they do it when the chips are down? Can they do it in a closeout game? That's maybe the final little box they got to check to buy in to this year being a different season. All right, let's get to the good, the bad, the ugly from the overtime loss on Saturday night. What'd you like, Dave?
Matthew Knies, man.
Dude,
absolute beast.
He was the hottest seller at the Sports Expo this weekend. You had a Matthew Knies in the showcase. It was gone in 3 minutes. Like, I was trying to buy up as much Knies as possible to put back in my case to try and move and sell. Gone like that. Didn't matter. Didn't matter what price tag you put on it. Didn't matter if it was a low end card, a high end card, a medium card, a rookie. Didn't matter. Autograph, not. It was such a high seller, and then it kicked into overtime when he scored that amazing goal Saturday night. I mean, what an effort play by the guy. Like, Matthew Knies and Josh Cloak tweeted this out, and it got me thinking, where he tweeted out and said, do we even know what this guy's ceiling could be? Because he seems to be bursting through the ceiling that I thought he had at one point. I thought, yeah, good, middle six power forward, 30-goal season, 25 to 30 goals. But he did that year too. And he just seems to keep getting better and better and better. And if he can also be a playoff performer on top of being a perennial 30-goal scorer, dude, this guy's going to be a valuable member to this team for a very long time.
Yeah, and again, it just also reminds us, how rare of a player he is for this Leafs team.
Yeah.
They really don't have a player that does what he does consistently and at a high level.
And it's like the battles for pucks too is what I love. Like, this guy along the boards is just so hard to beat. Like, if there's a loose puck battle, that guy 8 out of 10 times is going to win it. Like, he's just such a big dude. He uses his weight well, and he can box guys out, protects the puck well, and then has the hands to finish the way that he did. Beautiful little, roof job on Ullmark there. And he's, not a bad skater as well. On top of all of that, he's not like the best skater. He's not, Dylan Larkin out there, but he could skate too. Matthew Knies, what a beaut. That same thing. That was my good. The bad, Dave. What was the bad from Saturday night?
The start.
Yeah.
The start was pretty bad. Like,
Yeah.
not even the fact you allowed the first goal in the game, but that shorthanded goal was just all kinds of bad. Like the turnover. I'll give Knies, cookies for trying to get back in the play there. And didn't really like the way that Stolarz played that either. That might have been one of the more awkward ways to try to save a breakaway I've seen a goalie try to make.
Yeah.
There was nothing about that play that was very good. And that was a play there that gave Ottawa that it was an unnecessary need to give Ottawa life, right? Like,
Yeah.
I felt like that was the play there that made Ottawa feel like it gave them the belief that they could go and win the game. Obviously, the Leafs did a pretty good job of shutting things down after that, but you found yourself trailing 2-0 in the game and had to spend a lot of time trying to get back into it. And I just didn't like that second goal very much.
No, I mean, no one loves giving up a short-handed goal, and that's kind of always been, the fear of the 5-forward unit is, well, what if they give up that shorthanded goal, right? Like, you don't have defensemen back there to play it properly. If you give something up, and granted, Marner, at the point, like, he's very defensively reliable, but still, that's kind of the worst case scenario. What ended up happening in that game? You give up a bad shorty and kind of kills momentum and gives Ottawa a lot of momentum. And they completely crushed that first period. So the first period was not very good for the Maple Leafs. The Senators ended up with 80% expected goals for the Ottawa Senators. So they won 80% of the minutes. They outchanced Toronto 14-3. High danger chances were 9-1. Like, Toronto really didn't do a whole lot in that game. In that first period, it was all Ottawa. And credit to Toronto for, clamping down. I'm sure they heard an earful from Berube during the first intermission because they came out to play in periods 2 and 3. But that first period, horrendous by Toronto. The ugly, Dave.
The Tavares
mine was the shorty. So like that's like the short-handed
Yeah.
goal was ugly for me. And the special teams, like you go for 4 on the power play, you give up a short-handed goal. You're not going to win a lot of games that way when your power play is -1.
Well, the power play had been kind of the big catalyst for why they were, where they were in this series, because Ottawa would take a bad penalty, the Leafs took advantage. But the Tavares hit to me was ugly for 2 reasons. One, it makes you truly understand how important Tavares has been in this series.
Yeah.
Especially on the power play. He's the last person I think of being the catalyst for the power play, but I mean, he just does so many things well in that power play, especially the faceoff draws. But to me, what's ugly is just, how does that hit happen? And nothing. Crickets. Crickets in terms of not just the Leafs' response to it, because I guess nobody saw what happened on the play, but we just saw in 2 games with the Panthers and the Lightning, interference calls get 5-minute majors. That to me, that's a play there that should have been whistled.
Yeah.
Guy does not the puck is nowhere near him, and he gets an elbow to a chicken wing to the face. And he didn't just like stay down for a little bit. No, he stayed down for a bit and then went off for about a good 8 minutes.
Well, he missed the entire double minor. Like he was not out there for the entire power play in overtime.
Yeah. Like, to me, that was ridiculous. That whole play, that just like that, the impact of that play too, right? Like, Zub knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly and Zub was getting a little feisty in that game. Like, it wasn't just Tavares. Zub was pushing it a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Look, the Senators wanted their pound of flesh. Like, they were going
Yeah.
down swinging. You knew that, right? Like, that's a feisty team out there. You knew they were gonna go down swinging, and if they were gonna lose, they were gonna take a chunk out of you on the way. And Zub, took a chunk out of Tavares' chin on that play, and it is kind of outrageous that nothing came of it. Um, but Tavares is okay. Ended up returning a little bit later in the game, and he'll be good to go for Game 5. I haven't heard anything otherwise, so I assume we're good to go for Tavares for Game 5. But yeah, it was a pretty ugly play. You're not wrong, and it should have definitely been a call and another power play for the Maple Leafs, but they didn't score on the 4-minute one, so who knows? Maybe they wouldn't have scored on that one either. So it may not have mattered regardless. But definitely not a play you love to see just anywhere, whether it's on the Leafs or it's anywhere else in the NHL. You don't like to see when guys get their elbows up. I mean, I know guys in Ottawa, but frig, you don't got to get your elbows up. A little shot.
No.
Go vote today, by the way, people. Go vote. That's my my the only political thing that I will say
Go vote.
it is go vote. I don't care who you vote for, just vote. But anyway, yeah, again, it's not the worst thing in the world. It would have been nice, I guess, to see a sweep to put this thing to bed. But yeah, they come back to Toronto for Game 5 tomorrow night, and we'll see what they got. Let's hope the Stars in the closeout game can show up in a way they really have not been able to do a whole lot throughout their tenure here as Maple Leafs. Really quickly, what did you make of Stolarz' game? Neither of us really touched on Stolarz throughout that, through the good, the bad, the ugly. So let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to Anthony Stolarz and whether or not his job should be in question heading into Game 5, or his future, in goal throughout the playoffs. So we'll get to that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I'm a big fan of the no-shell variety. It's a perfect grab-and-go snack for those busy days, especially if I'm at my desk and I just don't want the mess of the shells. Or if I need something for a quick road trip, you can just throw those into the car, open them up, and you can take. And it's a great snack to have. Of course, if you want the satisfying in-shell options, they are a classic favorite. So get snacking and cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, David Morassutti with you, reacting to Saturday night's 4-3 overtime loss to the Ottawa Senators. Toronto failing to close it out in 4 games, so that sets up a Game 5 tomorrow night back in Toronto with the Leafs. Another opportunity to advance through into the second round. Anthony Stolarz allowed 4 goals in the game. So the first time that he looked slightly shaky. First time he didn't look elite, I guess, in the series. He allowed 1.29 goals above expected, which is not like Stolarz, who led the league in goals saved above expectation per 60 this season. What'd you make of Stolarz' performance? And, any concerns about, possibly him getting tired playing these games, so many games in a row in a short time span, something he hasn't really had to do, being in a tandem role throughout the whole season and his entire career?
To me, it's more so, I don't know if it's more so the tiredness, but, I didn't like the first 2 goals because first goal with Stützle, he's beat clean, right? There wasn't really much of a screen on that play. Just kind of missed, didn't track it well enough. And it was a good shot, I'll give it that. But he hasn't been beat clean very often in the series. And obviously I mentioned the second goal in the last segment where I felt that he could have played it just a little better. But it's also a breakaway. Goalies, that's a tough situation for a goalie to be in. But other than that, I thought he was pretty good again. The overtime winner, again, that's a screen, quick shot. That's a tough one to read for a goalie there. What I'm obviously concerned, there was a concern about, can he deal? The Leafs had given him rest last week, right? In between games. This is a goalie that hasn't dealt with this type of workload very often, and the Senators have put a lot of pucks on net, or the Leafs have, the Leafs are at their best too when they try to get in the lane. So if you're going to get in the lane, you got to block those shots because they've been doing a good job of that. But yeah, you always have, as good as Stolarz has been, I know a lot of people think it's crazy to think about replacing him for Game 5. They shouldn't give the guy Game 5, but this is a guy who hasn't been in this territory before. He's been on a really good streak to end the season, but it's not like he went and played 11 games in a row, right? He's played, I don't know how many he's played in a row since, kind of coming into the playoffs, but this is a workload he is not used to. So you definitely have to be cognizant of that. And if he has another subpar start in Game 5,
then you think about Woll for 6.
You do think about it a little bit. No, it has to be disastrous. If it's another close one and he's giving them every chance to win, I'm not having that conversation yet. But if he lets in a few that look like he's just not sharp, you have to have that. You have to think about it a little bit. But I'm not at that level. It's way low in my things the Leafs need to do better going into Game 5 is looking at Stolarz, but you can't not. You have to have the conversation too. You have to be thinking about it.
Yeah, I fully anticipate Stolarz to be the starter again for Game 5 as well. But yeah, if Game 5 doesn't go well for them, it wouldn't shock me. If they have to play Game 6, if that's their time to turn back to Joseph Woll and see what he can do, because he was phenomenal in the playoffs last year before getting hurt there, with the final second in Game 6. Yeah. In which he was pitching a shutout. So I don't think that there's a super long leash, despite how well Stolarz has played. I don't think it's a super long leash on the guy. They do still see Woll as the goalie of the future in my mind, and I don't think if Stolarz loses 2 in a row, regardless of how the game unfolds, I don't think it has to look disastrous. I think Stolarz loses 2 in a row, they probably go to Woll. And look, unless it's a 1-0 loss or something where he stands on his head literally. But I if this goes 6, I think Woll gets the start for Game 6.
And look, Joseph Woll's been in this position twice already, where he's had to come into a playoff series, right?
And he played well in both.
Yeah,
both times coming in mid-series, right?
So it's not something he hasn't dealt with. So at least in that essence, I wouldn't be concerned. At least just decide, all right, let's put Woll in the net. I'm not worried about whether he'd be ready for the moment. I think there's been an understanding that look, it's Stolarz' net, but you got to be ready to go too, because this has been a 1A 1B situation all season long.
Goaltending's been an interesting storyline around the entire NHL this weekend. You got Calvin Pickard, former Maple Leaf Calvin Pickard, leading the charge, getting the Oilers back into the series. They win a couple of games here this weekend, last night in overtime. I don't know if you watched that game, if you were up that late, but the Oilers just dominating in overtime, and finally Leon gets it done. So the Oilers, leaning on Calvin Pickard, get the job done on home ice, and they tie up the series heading back to LA. You see Sam Montembeault gets hurt in Montreal, so Jacob Dobish has to come in for the Canadians. He played pretty well last night. Logan Thompson left the game over the weekend, returned, however, for Washington, so he's okay, but that was a storyline. But there's no bigger story when it comes to goaltending right now than what's going on with Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, this guy's just a completely different player when he's on the road. Like this guy can't go on the road without giving up 4 or 5 goals. It's impossible. He gave up another 5, 6 goals yesterday before getting yanked. Like, dude, I don't understand how Connor Hellebuyck turns into a pumpkin in the playoffs. It's crazy.
Connor hella sucks in the road games in the playoffs.
Connor hella sucks.
I've used that a couple of times this weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. Just
that's why they keep calling the Jets like the Leafs West, and this is why. Like their stars, like Scheifele hasn't done it in the last couple of games. Hellebuyck, we got lit up for what 5 goals in game 3, lit up for 5, 6 again in game 4. Like, I don't know. You're clearly not turning to Eric Comrie. Like, I don't think they're in a situation where they're thinking about going to the other guy. But man, like, I just don't quite understand how this guy is just so, like, this is like 3 years in a row now where his goals against average when he's on the road is literally 5. Like, he's averaging 5 goals against over the last 3 years in the postseason on the road. It's brutal.
It's terrible. It's been terrible. And if you are the Jets right now, this could be 2 years in a row where you are the top seed in the series and could go on to lose out because your star player, your star goaltender doesn't play to his potential in these big games where you need him to be at his best.
Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. Why actually breaking news from this morning before we take off. See Mike Sullivan out in Pittsburgh. So Mike Sullivan, longtime Pittsburgh Penguins head coach. He's been the head coach there for almost 10 years. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in the NHL. No more. He has been relieved of his duties in Pittsburgh, and Mike Sullivan, I'm sure, will be a highly sought after coaching candidate around the NHL.
Yeah, he won't be without work very long.
No, unless he wants to be. It's completely on.
No, I don't think so. I think this was they called it a mutual part in the ways. I think it's because there's quite a few openings. And I'm sure there's some people who thought about that when they made some coaching changes, a la Anaheim, New York, just to name a few.
Yes. So I would expect for Sully to get picked up at some point. But some interesting. Like you're 2 weeks removed from the season, and now you decide not the day after, a couple weeks after, like, actually, you know what, let's just go in a different direction. I don't know what Dubas is doing out there in Pittsburgh, Dave. I'm not sure I know what's happening over there right now. It's interesting. Very, very interesting. That's for sure. All right. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to tee up Game 5, Leafs and Sens, the series shifting back to Toronto. Another chance to close this bad boy out. So until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.